Welcome to the Pivot Playground podcast. This is a space where we shoot the shit on living a creative and adventurous life, one not bound by rules or how it's been done before. From navigating the wild ride of solo entrepreneurship to evolving through the ebbs and flows of just being human, we're here to explore all of it, to do things on our own terms, and to remember we always have the power to pivot. Jump in, play hard, and savor the journey. Hello, and welcome back to the podcast. So in this episode, I wanted to talk about something that has been very much on my mind lately. I have a lot of thoughts about it, and I thought it would just be really cool to chat about it. So it's the value of beta testing offers in your business. If you don't know what beta testing is, it's basically where you take an offer, whether it's a new service or a new product, and you kind of test it with a small group of people before you do a full launch. So this way you can get really valuable feedback on what could be changed or improved for a full launch. And you can also get testimonials from people if they like it. And obviously testimonials are massively valuable for when you're launching things. So people can see what your beta testers have gotten out of the offering before they buy it. So I have a few things that I want to talk about just in terms of how I run them, how I found success with them, and certain things I have done in the past that I've now changed because they didn't work for me, and just things to think about because it's such a valuable thing to do in your business before you launch stuff to your entire audience. So I have been doing beta testing in my business on and off for almost my whole business. The first one I ever did was for my branding course. It was called Be Unmistakable. Basically, I just launched that to a group of people at a discount, and then in return for that discount they gave me feedback as I was building it out. So every time I would send them a lesson, I would send them a feedback form and say let me know what you thought of this lesson, blah blah blah, and get their feedback. So I've been doing them on and off for a lot of products and services, and most recently I've done it for a new product I launched called the Layout Library. So I guess there was also a couple levels to this beta, I guess you could call it. Basically just to give some context on the product, it is just a library of layouts that you can pull from when you get stuck designing from a blank page. They're not templates, they're literally wireframes that you can recreate in whatever design program you use. They're really... yeah, it's just an idea I've had for a long time. So basically, this was a product that I actually soft launched inside something I have called the Summer Design Club. So Design Club is a series of design workshops. And I thought of the idea to launch this layout library. Originally, it was called the Layout Handbook. Launch it inside the Summer Design Club just to be this is a new thing I'm trying out. I'm going to check it in with this group of people who I think are going to be the same audience, and also it's going to be it's going to relate to a lot of content in those workshops and whatever. So I was I'm just going to do a really small version of this and put it in with that group of people. So I would say that's one kind of tip. If you have something new that you're thinking of doing, are you running any kind of program, or do you have a client or someone that you can do the minimum, I guess, I don't know much about launching actual products, but I think it's a thing called the MVP, the minimum viable product. Don't quote me on that because I don't know much about it, but I feel that's an actual thing. What's the small version you can make of this and give it to people that may already be in the audience of people who would want that thing. And that can be a really good way to test if it's even worth building out to its full potential. Because sometimes you could spend forever building something. This is the other, there's so many values to beta testing, but one of the main ones is you could do it in stages so that you can actually see if this thing you want to build is even worth building to the full extent. Because sometimes you might do that. You might like have an idea, do a beta test, and like no one buys the beta test. No one's really interested in it. So instead of like wasting a bunch of time, you can like move on to something else. And also from your own point of view, like your own energy and like how does it feel to you to work on this thing? Sometimes you have to like get into it and figure that out for yourself. So that is definitely a tip of like, if there's something new you want to launch, is there people that are already in your audience or your customer or client base that you can be like, hey, I'm testing out this new thing. Here it is. Check it out and let me know what you think. So that's what I did for the layout library. And I chucked it in the Summer Design Club, and like a bunch of people in the club loved it. Like I didn't even ask for feedback, and people were like sending me messages saying like, oh my god, this is so sick, like it's so worth it. And I had a lot of people in my DMs asking me to launch it as an individual product. They were like, signing up for the full design club isn't really for me, but I would love the fucking layout handbook as like a product that I can just buy by itself. So like right off the bat, that was telling me like, okay, this could be going somewhere. So I kind of just let it sit for like a few weeks or a couple months until I had like the space to actually think about it more and build it out. So recently I just launched the layout library as a full individual product. But what I did is I launched it to a small group of beta testers first, because basically like the first version of the layout handbook, and this is also just giving context for how you can do this in like stages. So like the first version of the layout handbook, which was what it was originally called, was just a PDF. It was just like the most simple, like it might have been like 15 pages of just like really simple like little thumbnails of layout wireframes that you could then recreate. I had like tutorials and examples and stuff, but it was really a small version of this thing. And then the layout library is basically like a fully built out Notion document of the original version. So it's like it has filters where you can choose like, do you want portrait? What kind of design style do you want? Like it's got all these really sick filters. Every layout has an example. There's also design notes included for every single layout. So it's just like an evolved version of that first one. But basically, I still wanted to get feedback from people to be like, how do you find this Notion document? Like, is it easy to navigate? Like, it was important to me to ask people like what they thought of it and like how anything could be improved just before the full launch of it. Because like, ideally, like when you're launching products, like you want, and services, like you want them to be helpful and you want people to really love it, and getting the feedback from people is a really good way to do that. So that is kind of the evolution of how I did it, and I think that's quite a good way to do it. And this can work for like any size product. Like this product is quite small in terms of my other offers. Like this one, the pre-sale is like $150. The full price is like $200 Canadian. So in comparison to my other offers, like it's not huge. But yeah, so that's kind of the evolution of how you can think about them. And so from there, I would say the back end of how I run these is basically like I like built out the Notion version pretty much almost fully built out, because I did want the actual beta testers to get like almost the final version to like give me proper feedback. So I built that out almost to like 100%, and then I posted on my Instagram. And it depends where your audience is. Like I have my two main things are my email list and my Instagram. I posted it on my Instagram first just because like I'd be getting a lot of DMs and I felt like that was a good place, and I didn't want to blast this out to my entire email list. You don't want like a shit ton of people in these beta tests. Like you just want like a small group of people that can give you feedback. Like you don't need to sell this to like 50 people, and this can vary depending on the size of your audience and just like your own opinions about this. But the way I do them is, so for this beta test, I only had 5 people who paid for the product up front, and then I also had 5 people from the design club who had already got this version for free. They were in the beta test as well. So technically there was 10 people, there was only 5 new people that paid for it, which is what I wanted. I didn't want any more than 5 because again, like this Notion version I offered it at a discount, which is the other kind of piece of this, where like you offer this beta test at a discount in return for feedback. And like the one thing with that I would say is like just be very clear that like it's an exchange, like they're getting the discount in return for their the feedback. Like most people I think will understand this, but like I think sometimes people might like expect that they can just sign up for the discount and not give you feedback and just get the product. So definitely, like, I was very clear about that in mine, and like everyone sent in their feedback like right away. So that was really awesome. So you don't need a really big group of people for this, like just a small handful. And one thing, I will link another podcast, about beta testing by Kirsty Fanton. She's like a copywriter, like business coach chick from Australia. She does really cool shit, and she did a podcast about beta testing, and there was a lot of like really good stuff in there that I hadn't thought about. And one thing she said is, if you want, like, you can hand select your beta testers, and like each person you choose can be someone who can speak to like hesitations that your audience might have about buying the product. So like, for example, the layout library is made for like designers and non-designers. So I want that to be clear. All of my products are kind of those two categories, but like I could be specific, and like I did have people who brought it who were designers who could speak to how it helps them in their process, and also non-designers, because like I want people to see that like if they're like, I like this layout library, but I'm not a designer. Like, am I going to know how to work with it? And so I had some people in there who were non-designers who could be like, I'm not really a designer, but like, this is so cool for me. This is how it helps me, whatever. So I thought that was really smart, and I hadn't thought about that. So you can get really strategic about who you choose for your beta tests. If you have like a wide range of people asking to be, beta testing your products, you can be specific about it and like speak directly to what, like, well, it's not really a concern, but like hesitations that people might have about your product, which I thought was really cool and I hadn't thought of before. So I will link that podcast if you want to listen to it, because it's just really cool, and she talked about a lot of more strategic stuff like that. So yeah, that's the main thing. Like, you can sell it at a discount. For me, I did like the full price. So the pre-sale price for the first 2 days of launching the product is like $157 Canadian. The full price will be $197. And then for the 5 beta testers who purchased it, I did it for $100. And it's like totally up to you, like how much you want to do that discount for. Like, some people do like half price. I've seen that with like other people who do beta testing, like get it for 50% off. So it kind of depends what you want to do with that. But don't feel like you have to give it out for free. Like I said, I did my very small original version of the handbook. That was for free because it was like so small and I just wanted to test it. But like this version that I spent a lot of time building out, I was like, people, like, you don't have to give your shit away for free if you spend a lot of time building it. Like, you can give it for a discount because people are going to get a lot of value out of it. So that is important. The next thing I will say is that this is like, and I want to like be clear that when you're doing beta tests, or even when you're asking for feedback on your products and services, like outside of beta testing, like you're just asking for reviews, I think it's really important that you have to like be open to genuine feedback. Like, beta testing isn't just asking for a testimonial and like calling it a day. Like you're not just telling people to ask you, like you're not just asking people to tell you how much they love your product. Like, because that's just not, I mean, that's kind of douchey to begin with. Or just like sleazy, or like just like weird vibes. Like you want genuine feedback so you can make the product better, which is the whole fucking point of a beta test. So like that is really important. Like in when you do it, like when you give people like I just used Google Forms and created like a really simple survey. So as you're doing that, like think about the questions, which I can go over my questions I asked in a minute. Like you want genuine feedback about how things could be better, or like what could be clearer, or just like how the product can actually be improved, because like that's the whole point of beta test, to be honest. So the questions that I asked, just for like, again, like if you want ideas or just like to get an idea of things that you might ask. And also this is something you can totally Google, or definitely like if you use ChatGPT, I actually used it to help me form some of these questions. Like I gave it a bunch of info about the layout library and like what I'm doing with it. And I was like, I'm running a small beta test. Can you help me like come up with a few questions that might help me with this feedback? So the main questions I ask are what, and there's some of these are like really specific to this product, but just to give you an idea. So first question is, what are your go-to design tools? So this, like I said, this product can be used with any design tool, but I wanted to get an idea of like literally what programs are people going to be using these layouts for, just to like give me some context, and also for like future versions of the product, like maybe if I want to make templates of this, like that just felt like important to know, even if it's not something I'm going to use right now. Second question, what did you think when you first opened the layout library? Like what is your first impression? Like were you like overwhelmed and it was like super intense, or was it like, okay, this is really sick, or like literally just what was your first impression? Next question is, how do you see the layout library fitting into your projects, or alternatively, why did you purchase it? This is a good one because you want to know like why are people buying this thing? Why are they interested in it? And how do they see themselves using it? Next question, how did you find the overall design and organization of the layout library? Is it easy to use, or are there things that you think could be better for better usability? This is another important one for me, especially in all of my things that I build. Like I want it to be really easy to use, and like I don't want anyone to like ever feel overwhelmed to use it. Like I want it to be easy to navigate, and it's also part of my job as like as a designer, as I'm building shit like this, is to like make it as accessible as possible. And like again, this gets really good responses that like actually help me build it out. So like a few people said like it's really easy to navigate. Some people said like one of the things like on the sidebar was showing up weird. So this is like very open questions that like I actually want the answer to. So like the feedback I got here did actually help me like take a look at a couple things and adjust them. What's the next question? Next one, which part of the layout library was a total win for you? Like what had you super stoked? This is pretty obvious. Just like what are people really excited about when they opened it? This next question was like quite specific because and all of this, the other point with all of this is like, as you're doing this, leave all of these questions completely open-ended and don't leave like examples for any of it, which I've mentioned this in another podcast, but this is so key for like really getting, like you want everything in your beta testers and your customers' own words, because I'll come back to this point soon, but that is extremely valuable. Like how do people describe your work to you? Because it might be different than how you think about your work yourself, and that comes in really handy. So the next question is, what would make you use the layout library over other design resources such as Pinterest or similar design inspo sources? So this question felt like I genuinely just wanted to know what people had to say about this, because to me, like, there was a small part of me that was like, it's really easy for me to just go to Pinterest and like look for design inspo and then take that and turn it into a layout. Like, there's stuff that's going to be easy for you that isn't easy for your customers, but like, I want to hear what they have to say about it. And the answers to that were like so interesting, and like just the way people described that was really valuable, which again, I'll come back to that. Next question was just like, did you run into any bugs or weird glitches while you're using the layout library? Again, that was just like, I want the feedback of like, did any weird shit happen that I need to fix? And then honestly, those are the kinds of main questions I always ask on like any feedback, is like, what's missing or what could be better? Like, is there anything that would make this more usable or more amazing for you? Just let me know. And then the last question is just, do you have an extended testimonial you want to leave for the layout library? And that's just a spot where like they can expand on what they really think about it. And this last question isn't like a required thing. You know how you can make it like they can't submit the form without doing that. So I never make that required. Like, the rest of the feedback is more important to me. And like the rest of the feedback, I can take that and use that as a testimonial if I want. But like, I still want to leave space for them to like give me an actual testimonial. So those are the questions that I had in this specific product. And again, that will change like depending on the product or offering that you're doing. But generally it's like, what do you like about it? What is like confusing or do you think could be better? And then you can kind of get more specific about it. Definitely recommend using ChatGPT to help you form those questions, because it is really helpful. Like, I used it, like I said, for this, and it was pretty awesome. And so the other point that I want to come back to with this, and what this reminded me of like why beta testing is so freaking valuable, is like getting to hear feedback and the like words of your customers can give you like a completely different perspective on your own work, which is so fucking cool. Because I think sometimes like with your work, like no matter what you do, it's so easy to just like you have your own vision, you have your own idea about what your offerings are and like what your work is and how you want it to help people. But like, it's always going to be, people are always going to have their like own interpretations of that and their own experience with it, and like they're just their own take. And so like getting that feedback is so fucking cool, because it's going to be different than like what you think. And I think it was recently I saw someone talk about this in another way. I think it was Isabel Griffin, who I'll link her Instagram and stuff below. I think it was in an email. She said that when you're kind of looking for ways to like describe your work, she's a copywriter, by the way. Like one way that you can look for like, how is your work different, or like, why do people come to you, is like mine your testimonials for what people say about your work. And I feel like this beta test gave me so much like valuable perspective on my work that feels really cool to have, even just for like the future of my business and like things I want to offer, and just like the way people described how this layout library is helpful was just really cool. And I feel like that is so valuable to have, to see, like, just to hear in people's own words how they experience your brand, which is like another piece of branding as a whole. Like, my definition of branding, basically, like, branding to me is like, you can come up with your own brand voice, like values, mission, like you can craft the whole thing. That's what you do as a brand. Like, you build it out, but like how people experience it and like your audience is always going to make up their own mind about what your brand is. Like, you can construct shit as much as you want, but you have to live up to that, and you have to like build shit and like do things actually aligned with that, and then let people make up their own mind. And that is what this whole beta test this time, and like even when I've done them in the past, like I guess I kind of forgot about this aspect of it, but this like just reminded me of how valuable that is, to like really like make stuff and then get the feedback from your people about how they experience your work. So that's pretty much the gist of what I wanted to talk about in this episode, because this recent beta test just reminded me how freaking cool they are and how valuable it is to get people to like give you feedback on shit before you fully launch it. So if you haven't done a beta test before, I would totally recommend it. Just give it a shot, whether it's like a service you're thinking of running, even if you just offer it to one person. Like, hey, I'm thinking of this thing. Here's like the details for this discount. There's only like one spot available. Whatever, like throw that out to your audience. If you don't have a specific person, just like throw it out there. And you definitely want to limit them. Like, that's the number one thing. And same with like a product, like limit it to 5-10 people, whatever you want. And then spend some time like developing a really good survey where you can get their feedback, and it's going to help you make really cool shit, and it's going to give you some really cool perspective through other people's lenses on your own work, which is like just really cool and valuable. So yeah, if you picked up anything cool that you try out in your business, I would love to know about it. Send me a DM on Instagram. And yeah, I think that's it for this episode. So I'll see you soon.